taking action for you this morning on TV 20 Detroit starts right now.
PULSEBEAT. Welcome to another edition of the National Association of Black Journalists Salute to Excellence and Emmy-nominated PULSEBEAT with Greg Dunmore. On this show, we're going to be talking movies. So we're on location at the Riviera Theater, which is just a stone's throw from Detroit proper, and it's on Grand River. And we're going to talk about what Grand River is in just a second, as we're also going to be spotlighting the premiere of Detroit Ransom 2, and they're setting up behind us, and we are going to give you a sneak preview of why that movie is a movie that you definitely want to see, I think, but we'll know more after the movie is screened. Now, I am sitting next to cinema connoisseur Elijah Boykin, the author of one of my favorite film, really, journeys, would be a book that is so outstanding, Towards a New Cinema. Elijah, welcome back to PULSEBEAT with Greg Dunmore.
Thank you. I'm grateful to be here.
And because you are a native Detroiter, let those people who are from other places know, although we're at the Riviera Cinema on Grand River, but there actually is no
river here. You got to go on to Jefferson to get a river. So, you know, all you're doing is going down Jefferson until you get to the Imagine Theater so you can see some of these flicks.
Right. And before we talk about Detroit Ransom 2, let's talk about a movie that I was so impressed by because the acting was tour de force, and that would be magazine Dreams.
You have to do something big and important, or nobody will remember you when you're dead.
Side chest. 21-7 switch.
I want to be Mr. Olympia one day. I've been training for this every moment of my entire life.
Like my deltoids, judges always say they're too small. Think they're liars?
Everyone's a liar.
It is important that you find people that you can make an emotional bond with.
Now, can you identify a movie or two that comes to mind that would be an example of a tour de force performance in a movie that just mesmerized you?
Well, I'm really geeked about Sinners.
We've been gone a long time. We back now. You twins? Nah, we cousins.
Sinners just came out because I thought what Michael B. Jordan did, you know, in that film, playing those twins was really exciting, you know. And the way he differentiated between the two characters, he had one, because they were both brothers, okay? One of them rarely smiled, okay? But the other one was smiling all the time, so that's how you could tell the difference between the two of them, you know. And so that when the one that always smiled would get serious, you could tell, you know, he was a particular brother. And when the one who always smiled start to, get serious, you know, you could tell he was a particular brother. So it was very interesting, you know.
Michael B. Jordan indeed gave an outstanding performance,
It was
but
an Oscar-winning performance, I think, you know. So I don't know that he's going to get the Oscar, but the way he handled those two brothers, I thought, you know, no actor could have done it better.
now let's turn the wheel back a little bit and talk about classic tour de force performances, especially by an actor. I think of what Marlon Brando did in A Streetcar Named Desire.
Hey, Stella! Hey, Stella!
And also, I think about what Marlon Brando did in The Godfather as being tour de force.
Godfather, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
You can act like a man! What's the matter with you? Is this how you turn out a Hollywood Pinocchio that cries like a woman? What can I do? What can I do? What is that nonsense? Ridiculous. You spend time with your family?
Sure I do.
Good. Because a man that doesn't spend time with his family can never be a real man. Come here. You look terrible. I want you to eat. I want you to rest well, and a month from now, this Hollywood big shot's gonna give you what you want.
It's too late. They start shooting in a week.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
What comes to mind in terms of classic cinema?
Well, you know, see, he had personal presence, what we call personal presence altitude. You know, some people can just be there, you know, and they exude this kind of force or this energy field, and not all actors can do that. That's why I think he stands out among actors. You know, there was a way that he could just be, that it would fill the room, you know,
Yes.
and then very few actors have that.
So you name,
charisma, you know?
yeah, so I want you to tell me a movie that would be a throwback film that you think exhibits tour de force acting, especially from an actor.
Well, probably the best acting I've ever seen, particularly for a young man, was Jimmy Stewart in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Mr. President, I stand guilty as framed because Section 40 is graft. And I was ready to say so. I was ready to tell you that a certain man in my state, a Mr. James Taylor, wanted to put through this dam for his own profit. A man who controls a political machine and controls everything else worth controlling in my state. Yes, and a man even powerful enough to control congressmen. And I saw 3 of them in his room the day I went up to see him. Senator, yield. No, sir, I will not yield.
But it takes a lot of energy to do what he did in that film, you know, and it's particularly for a young man to do. But I thought the emotional ranges that he showed in that, to me, it was almost like Hamlet, you know. So I thought that was one of the best acting performances I ever saw. There was also Paul Scofield in A Man for All Seasons.
Well, I think that when statesmen forsake their own private conscience for the sake of their public duties, they lead their country by a short route to chaos.
That's more measured and restrained type of, you know, performance. But there's lots of good roles, you know, that have been performed. Danny Glover did good in that film, To Sleep with Anger.
My grandson. This is my youngest son's child. Oh, he kind of favored one of my boys when he was about his age. Oh, yeah? Yeah. Boy, that's bad luck to touch a fella with a broom. Now, he knows better than that. Now, Sonny, you apologize to Harry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, what brings you around these parts? Well, I came all the way from Detroit by bus going to Oakland. Bus stopped in Los Angeles. I had to get off and take me a rest.
Because, you know, he had this menace about him, even though, you know, he seemed like he was just folks, you know, down south and whatnot. But you could tell there was something kind of off about him, and the way he carried that and conveyed it, you know, I thought was really very suspenseful. But there's been a lot of great, you know, performances.
Yeah, but now you're talking about some actors, certainly, that define acting excellence that would be definitive. But I want to talk about what Jonathan Majors did, because if you get a chance to see the movie, which has a backstory that's a little interesting, because it was to have been released in 2023, but because of the controversy concerning Jonathan Major got in a scandal, it's part of the Me Too movement where he did something that caused them to think that we can't put the movie out because there was a major court case that was going on that spotlighted something that they felt was going to be a dark cloud over the movie. So they waited until 2025 to release this movie. So when I saw
Nobody knows who you are.
Jonathan Majors, I felt that it was one of the greatest one-man tour de force performances of an actor that I've ever seen in my many years of watching movies. Now, the movie's about a bodybuilder and the need to be spotlighted and the need to feel validated when people recognize you, and the way that celebrity sort of validates people and it feeds the ego. But because he had such nuances in the movie that only the most talented actor that organically, as well as trained, because you know, Jonathan Majors is a graduate of the Yale School of Drama, and so that's that academic training. But there is something I believe that all great actors have, that even though the academic training probably is part of the formula, but do you think the academic training, when you don't have it, and the organic training is more important, or do you need a combination of both?
Well, it depends on the medium, really. Stage actors tend to be more formally trained and can easily transition into film. But some people are just naturally photogenic, and so the stage training is not that important. See, you got to remember about film, there was an essay I read Ingmar Bergman wrote called Film Has Nothing to Do with Literature. Film is essentially about the aesthetics of photography, the aesthetics of painting, the aesthetics of music, and also the aesthetics of dreams, and that's where the non-linearity comes in. Some people are just naturally photogenic, okay, and so their performances fit the medium of film best. Other people are stage trained and they can bring more depth to their characters because of that stage training. But every once in a while you'll get somebody like Johnny Cash.
Did you say you were looking for Will Teneray?
That's right.
I'm Will Teneray.
Abe Cross.
I don't want to kill you, Teneray.
Who hasn't had the formal training of somebody like Kirk Douglas, okay? But he's extremely photogenic. The camera loves him, as they say, or it loves her in the case of somebody like Hedy Lamarr or Gene Tierney, okay? And that's something totally different. That's something you can't calculate. Or the camera loves Marlon Brando, like you mentioned before, okay? And that gives a person an edge as far as, actually conveying a riveting performance. Yeah.
Come in here and you sprinkle a place with powder and you spray perfume and you stick a paper lantern over the light bulb and lo and behold, the place is turning to Egypt and you are the queen of the Nile sitting on your throne swilling down my liquor. And you know what I say? Ha ha!
Actors who were born to play the parts that they become so noted for. Now, we're going to connect the dots because when I talk about now one of my favorite actors, Jonathan Majors, I go back in his impressive resume of films, and there's a connection between the movie that really did put a spotlight on him, and that would be Creed 3.
You don't remember me, huh? Come a long way from bumming rides from your mom.
Damn. Boy, you had me. Damien.
Yeah, just got back to the hood, stopped by the old gym, but
yeah, we upgraded a couple years ago.
Stay tuned as we will continue this discussion of cinema.
Damn, it's
been a minute.
In a minute.
Pulse Beat.
Heads up, the IRS is on the move. If you owe more than $10,000 in back taxes, bank accounts, cash, and assets are all up for grabs. With thousands of 5-star reviews, StopIRSDebt.com has helped taxpayers of all incomes get protected and slash their tax debt fast. Go to StopIRSDebt.com now to check for savings. Simply answer a few questions and you're done. Don't wait until it's too late.
Call 855-379-9720. Call now.
All aboard!
There's a new way to travel, and it's one of the oldest forms of transportation. Travel by train. Yes, consider traveling around the United States on Amtrak. Traveling by train is a lot less of a headache than taking a plane, and you'd be surprised how many places you can go on an Amtrak. And there's no passports or IDs needed. Find out how to get where you're going as soon as tomorrow by train. Call the Amtrak Travel Hotline right now. We'll book your trip and email your tickets within minutes. Skip the drive to the airport and skip the lines. Call right now to book your Amtrak reservations. We service most of the United States. Do something new. Travel by Amtrak today. Find out how to get where you're going as soon as tomorrow by train. Call the Amtrak Travel Hotline right now.
Call 855-827-5004. That's 855-827-5004. Again, 855-827-5004.
Pulse Beat. Now, we're going to connect the dots because when I talk about now one of my favorite actors, Jonathan Majors, I go back in his impressive resume of films, and there's a connection between the movie that really did put a spotlight on him, and that would be Creed 3 and Sinners, and that connection would be what?
Was Jonathan Majors supposed to be in Sinners?
There was a lot of conversation online when people found out that Michael B. Jordan would be playing twins in Ryan Coogler's fantastic film Sinners, that Jonathan Majors was cast or at least considered, but was removed after his troubles in 2023.
Well, I think he just did an extraordinary performance in both those films, okay? But Sinners is interesting because I really learned something about the blues. Delroy Lindo, I think it was, he was sitting in this car in one scene, and he was talking about, just what the blues was all about. And he said it so succinctly that, I said, wow, I got it. Okay, this is why people are so into the blues, so interested about it. He just explained it in 2 or 3 sentences. And I thought that was really, a public service that Ryan Coogler did, for the public.
So you listening to this? Now we out here playing games, telling ghost stories in place of doing what we ought to do.
And what is it we supposed to be doing? What drew me to this was the music and the musicality, and the musicality within myself, this man, Delta Slim. And I hope that audiences connect to the various larger themes that are present in this story. I mean, it's profound. It is profound, but it's also a brilliant example of a people taking their pain and making art.
Between life and death.
Listen here.
Finally, he got into the soul of the blues. So anybody, even me, could understand, why it was so popular and such an evocative medium for, especially African Americans. And he got in a little bit about the Negro spirituals and also about jazz. And there's one scene, in the movie where it looked like a painting. That's what I was telling you about. Film is very much like painting. It looked like a painting that Ernie Barnes had did, the NFL football player, and it was really interesting. The one that was on Good Times and whatnot. But he made it come to life. He animated it.
He did. Wow. And as a matter of fact, that was on the album cover of I Want You by Marvin Gaye.
Exactly, that's right. And I thought that was really something. Plus, it was a good old-fashioned Devil's Tale, and I've always had, kind of yin to see a good old-fashioned Devil's Tale, because you could just feel, these guys had been trained by Al Capone. They were setting up this juke joint, and you could tell by the vibes, something evil was going to, jump on.
Doesn't it go deeper than that? Because I'll tell you that the connection, by the way, that I was referring to would be that Ryan Coogler, he directed Creed 3 that put a spotlight on Jonathan Majors, and he is also the now history-making director of Sinners. By the way, Sinners made history by being, in the history of horror films, it is the highest grossing movie within its second week that has not declined in its money-making ability in the second week. So that's a historical, because it's about box office. But beyond the box office success that everyone is raving about, and I'm so glad that he's receiving that level of attention, because Michael B. Jordan, as you mentioned, is a brilliant actor. His performance is worthy of an Academy Award, as well as an Emmy Award and all the other wonderful awards out there. But did you not think that Ryan Coogler, as a director beyond the genre of horror, don't you feel that he was making several statements in Sinners that would be tied into religion and race and other very, what we would say, profound insights that would make it much more than just a horror genre film?
Well, it had surprising depth, I'll put it that way. And because I remember reading in Facing Mount Kenya by Jomo Kenyatta, he talked about how music, dance, and song were ways in which, Africans and African Americans could encode information. And I thought he really dealt into that very deeply. I would have gone straight to Africa to kind of, reference the origins of that. But what he did, what I wouldn't have done, but I thought was really good. He counterpointed with the fact that other, groups, they used music, song, and dance as information sharing systems as well, you know, because you had country music in there and Celtic music, you know, where they were counterpointing each other when you had the battle between the vampires and the people who were, you know, trying to enjoy themselves and relax in the juke joint. So I thought it was interesting how he did that. So, you know, but it was a film of surprising depth, and it's a film that I think will be discussed, you know, for many generations to come.
If you like what we're doing, please tell a friend, or if you want to see what we've done again, go to pulsebeatglobal.com. That's PULSEBEATGLOBAL.com. You can also go to our Pulsebeat TV YouTube channel, and you can revisit what we're doing. And once again, you can tell everybody that the YouTube channel, Pulsebeat TV. Thanks for telling the world about us.
Attention CPAP users with sleep apnea. You may have heard about the importance of cleaning your CPAP mask and supplies regularly, but we can't stress enough the importance of replacing your old CPAP supplies every 90 days to prevent infections and improve your overall health. With Medicare and private insurance, you may qualify to receive regular replacement supplies with free home delivery at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Improve your sleep and take control of your health with new Medicare-covered CPAP supplies every 3 months.
As we continue this discussion at the Riviera Cinema, we are at the world premiere of a filmmaker that comes highly recommended by our favorite film connoisseur, Elijah Boykin, and that would be Mr. Sean Woodard's world premiere of Detroit Ransom 2. Yeah. Welcome to PULSEBEAT with Greg Dunmore, Sean.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Now, Sean, you come highly recommended as a filmmaker that has a resume that is very impressive, and in a nutshell, let the audience know your body of work and some of the films that are like your children, but some of the films that they should know comes from your heart and soul.
Okay, I've done about up to 13 movies right now, and got another 3 or 4 that's being edited, and we just shot one, so we got a lot coming out. And just the beginning, it all started with Rico back in 2002.
Rico!
I want this entire area sealed off.
The dream team put together by the internet god, Rico.
I don't know, but this feels real out of the norm, you know?
Rico!
And over the years, I've done horror with Office Outbreak.
Hey guys, Carrie was just fired. I've got first dibs on the office stuff.
Being off a few million is like pennies.
There's a suspicious male sitting in a car near the oil center. Caller says it looks as if he's planning a terrorist attack.
I'm getting tired of these profiling calls.
Stop!
Ah, my ass! Ah!
Lady, if anyone gets out, we all die!
And then we've done faith-based movies like Sunrise, that's on Amazon, and I currently have 9 movies that's on Tubi, currently streaming, doing well. And one, the Sunrise, is on Amazon and Google Play and other places like that. And we just got a few more that we've got in the can that we'll be looking to premiere here shortly.
How difficult is it to make a movie here in Detroit, Sean?
It's quite difficult because it's you're getting 30 to 40, maybe 60 actors in a movie. You got a cast, and you got a crew of about 10 to 15 people, and it's just like moving a boulder up a mountain and getting it up there. So I always applaud a filmmaker once they get their movie finished and in the can and distributed, that they created a minor miracle, actually.
I think I made a mistake.
Are you crazy? I bet he's such a mean toe, and if you don't hook up with him, then I'll gladly take your little sloppy seconds.
Well, the one thing I wanted to know was, how do you come up with the subjects that you come up with? Is it something that, just comes out of your own imagination, or if it's just something that you really see in the environment that you say, okay, I would like to do something to put a spotlight on this? That's what I would like to know.
Yeah, some of it comes from imagination, some of it comes, I'm an accountant, government accountant, so some of it was based out of accounting, like Office Outbreak. Although it was a horror, it was based on accounting and, some things of that, accounting and, things in the financial markets was the basis of the story. And then there's other times when I had, like, my niece, I learned that she was a good actress and a singer, so I built Detroit Ransom around her acting abilities and her singing as a part of her character in the movie. So it just comes from everyday life and, watching other movies and being inspired by other movies and trying to come up with something different and something that could reach the masses in Metro Detroit and all over the U.S.
I have your daughter.
Who is this?
Your husband's wife. Who are your daughters?
The most difficult part of being in the film is recording the same scene for like 2 hours. Like that was like the most difficult thing, because you got to remember your lines over and over and over again and like exactly how you said it. Like sometimes things might break, you might not know what's going on, you're gonna be really hot, you're gonna be really confused, you're hungry, you might be thirsty, but all in the end it still pays off.
Yeah, well, I think you were probably the best thing about this movie, in my opinion, because there's something very special about you.
Really? Thank you. My doctor says the same thing.
Yeah. You got that it quality.
Oh my gosh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I will hold that in my heart.
Yes. Sean, you look very prosperous, and so when we talked about financing a film as an investment, can one become wealthy in Detroit in the movie biz?
Well, you can become wealthy, but if you're getting in it to become wealthy, then it might be quite an undertaking that you might fail at. I think it comes from the heart. You want to put out good work and inspire people, and then, the money will come after that. So that's what I just say, that it's about the work. It's about the messaging. If you're trying to get messaging in your filmmaking, I say it's about the messaging and coming from the heart and putting the project out and seeing what happens from there.
How will people be able to see the movie? Will it be at the Riviera? I know you're doing a world premiere here, so how might people see the film after watching this television show, which is going to inspire them to see it?
Well, after the premiere, it's going to be sent to the distributor, and it will be on Amazon Prime shortly, and then after that, it will be on Tubi. It takes a while to get on Tubi. It takes some months to get on Tubi, but it should be on Tubi sometime this summer, and on Google Play and all the other platforms where people go to watch their movies.
And what might be your elevator pitch, so to speak, to inspire people to know that Detroit Ransom 2 is a must-see film?
Well, they're going to see the finer things of what Detroit has to offer, where we have the family values, where the child is at home with the two parents in the home, and they're doing family game night, watching movies, and also they will get to the streets and when they have to get her back, and they will get her back by any means necessary.
Let me speak to my daughter.
Let's make a trade. Your husband's wife. Who are your daughters?
Thanks for watching this episode, and remember, we coined the phrase Mo Wood on the PULSEBEAT with Greg Dunmore show. Until the next go round, we appreciate you.